Today, I am excited to welcome Maura Lohrenz. She is the proud parent of a dog named Sasha and also a grand dog named Charlie.
Mhm.
Maura, tell us about Sasha and Charlie.
Okay, so Charlie came first. Charlie is my daughter's dog. They lived in Charlestown at the time, thus the name Charlie. She adopted him through a New England adoption service in the Boston area. And so she adopted him sight unseen, which was a little scary. But Charlie has turned out to be such a love bug. We don't know what he is. He's a Heinz 57 variety dog, and he's now going on 8 years old. Um, so when he was about two or well, let me back it up. When she first got Charlie, we had two other dogs. We had a black lab named Ellie, who was adopted when we used to live down south. We adopted her from a shelter in Mississippi, and we also had a golden doodle, and they had both passed away. And so we decided I lasted about 6 or 7 months and then started pestering my husband that we needed another dog. I couldn't live without a dog. So I had heard of Lighthouse from our Lighthouse Animal Shelter in New Bedford. I had heard about them from our vet in Mattapoisett. And so I submitted an application. And right away, they sent back, some information and asked what we were looking for. And we went to the shelter on my 61st birthday and we met Sasha and fell in love immediately. So Sasha's Gotcha Day is my birthday. And we were told at the time that she was about a year old. So as far as I'm concerned, she and I are 60 years apart on the day.
What kind of dog is Sasha? I know you said Charlie was a bit of a mix, but
Right. Sasha, as it turns out, well, they thought she was part husky. I didn't think so. So we did the DNA test on her. And I'll just make as an aside, I think the DNA test, if you can afford it, is really great because it gives your veterinarian all kinds of information about what your dog might, any kind of diseases it might be heading, susceptible to. So we did the
Mhm.
DNA test and she came back. One of her parents was 100% German Shepherd, and the other parent is 100% Great Pyrenees, which was a
Oh,
complete,
wow.
yeah. So she's a big, fluffy white. In fact, when we first brought her home, our neighbor was out in the front yard. He said, "What'd you do? Adopt a big white wolf?" Because she does look a little bit. Some people think she looks like an English cream retriever. I'll show her to you at some point if we have a minute. But she's sweet. She's about 85 pounds now. Uh,
Hmm.
Big dog. We've always had big dogs, so we're comfortable with big dogs.
Yeah.
I'll stop there and let you ask questions.
Yeah, no, no, no. This is all really great information. I mean, what a breed combination. Great
Yeah,
Pyrenees and German Shepherd. I mean, they're not small dogs and they shed a lot. So that's
they they shed a ton. Yeah, and
key.
so she also both of those breeds, as you know, are guardian breeds. So she has very strong guardian instincts. Um,
Hmm.
and what we have found with Sasha is that she's great with people, great with kids. She's not so great with unknown dogs.
Hmm.
So luckily, she and Charlie were friends from day one. My son also has a dog. He's not a rescue, but he's a mini Aussie. The two of them get along really well. So dogs that she met soon after we adopted her in our neighborhood, they're friends. New dogs that she met after about the age of 2, she has a really hard time with. And so I've actually been training her. I've joined a training group in Wareham, and we've been really working on her socialization. She's
Oh, okay.
making a lot of progress. We still have a ways to go.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because one of the questions that I had today was, what challenges have you experienced since adopting your dog? And it sounds like it's a bit of socialization, but it's wonderful to hear that you made the commitment to the dog, you were willing to stay the course and say, okay, let's see if we can figure that out. How long
Yeah.
have you been training, doing the dog training?
So I really wish I could have started sooner. I was working full time in Boston and I just didn't have the time. And, in retrospect, maybe I should have waited and not adopted the dog until I was retired, but I couldn't last that long without a dog. So anyway, we started training her last summer. And she really has made progress. The dogs that are in her class, we started off with private lessons with this trainer, and
Okay.
moved to the trainer's fantastic. She also had some of Sasha's dog friends join us in a couple of the trainings, and one of Sasha's dog friends already goes to this trainer. So we'll have semi-private group settings, and then we'll have group settings and pack walks. And so Sasha has to join the pack. And in the beginning, whenever we get there, the first 10 minutes is a lot of barking.
Hmm.
She's not an aggressive dog. She's never bit anybody or any dog, but she just gets very protective of me. So it just takes me being able to explain to her that I'm in charge, I'm the pack lead. And within about 10 minutes, she usually settles down. So like I said, we're making progress. Uh,
Hmm.
it's two paws forward, one paw back, but
Yeah, yeah. And I think people underestimate how long sometimes challenges can take to overcome. It really is a commitment, not only to bringing them every week and getting the education, or every other week, or whatever the schedule is that
right
you're
now
on.
I try to do 2 or 3 times a week. It's a lot right
That's
now.
quite aggressive an aggressive schedule to
Yeah,
maintain. But then it's also doing it when you get home.
right.
Because you can't just do it while you're there and then, okay, we hope it
No,
all
then
works.
you keep it going when we get home. Right. So
Yeah.
we have a couple dogs in the neighborhood that she has not made friends with yet. And so one at a time, that their owners are great. They understand, I mean, dog owners, dog people understand it's not the dog's fault.
Hmm.
Just the dog in my case is a guardian breed. And so we need to work through her instincts. Um, and so one by one, we're making friends with the other dogs in the neighborhood, but it takes time and commitment on both of our parts, both owners' parts.
Yeah. And it's great that you have such wonderful neighbors, because
Very lucky.
I have a park near my house that I walk my two dogs at
Yep.
pretty regularly, and I'm always surprised, unfortunately, at the number of people that just let their dogs loose and just
Right.
almost assume that my dog is going to be okay with being nose to nose
Exactly.
with their dogs.
Right.
And it's a challenge in public places, but it sounds like you're kind of working this in a more a close to home setting,
Very
where people
controlled.
know.
Right. I can't let Sasha off leash if she's not in a contained yard. That's another challenge for her, I think, is that she has a strong prey drive. So if she sees a squirrel, she's gone, and
Mm,
we live in, near the woods. We have coyotes around here. She would not back down from a coyote. I just don't ever want to get her in. I don't ever want to put her in that situation. So
no, because that would be
awful.
a vet visit at the very least. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just don't know.
I can't let
Just
her off
don't
leash.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you love most about your dog? It's probably almost hard to pinpoint, one or two things. You
Yeah.
probably love her, all of her, but
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna get teary here probably. No, she is, I mean, she's a member of our family, right? I mean, and all of our dogs have been that way. Sasha, I don't know, she and I and our husband and she are very, very close. And how do I put it? I mean, I'll sit on our window seat and she'll just come up and put her head on my lap, and I took her to grooming. I had her groomed this morning, and it was the first time we'd been to this place. So I asked the guy if I could go back there with her because I knew she would get a little nervous. And I think it was helpful because she's 85 pounds. It was just him, and brand new.
mm,
And the whole time she's just got her head tucked under my shoulder, and just, I don't know. She's just a love. She really
yeah,
is. She's a
yeah.
love. Mhm.
So obviously a second dog is not necessarily in your immediate future, but I guess once Sasha learns to be a little bit more socialized, is that something that you would consider, or are you going to
So
be a one dog household for a little bit?
yeah, maybe. In the past, we've usually had two dogs. We've gone, and I would say half of them have been rescues. One of them was not a rescue. My sister had, this is before the whole golden doodle phase, but she had a standard poodle and mated that poodle with a golden retriever of a friend of hers and had a litter of golden doodles. So, of course, we had to have one of those. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
most of our other dogs have been rescues over the years, and we always have had two. Partly because when we were working full time, it was nice for the dogs to have company and not to leave a single dog alone at home. But now that I'm retired, my husband's going to be retired, we'll probably, and because my daughter's dog and my son's dog are often visiting us, I think for us, one dog is enough at a time. And
yeah.
because for family gatherings, we automatically have three dogs, so.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Now, are you a dog on the bed family, or does Sasha have her own space to sleep?
Yeah, so she sleeps in our room, but on her own bed.
Yeah.
She'd take up half of our bed if she slept with us. And I, to be honest, I have a little bit of an allergy. She sheds all the time. So we brush her pretty much every day. Like every morning she gets a walk first thing in the morning, and then part of the routine is that she gets brushed. I
Mhm.
could I have a neighbor who has a spinning wheel, and we've teased that she could probably have spun all kinds of Afghans with Sasha's hair by now. I mean, we have clumps of hair every day, especially in shedding season, which is now we vacuum or sweep every single day. So I mean that's another challenge with that type of a dog. And
Mhm.
other dogs that shed, people know it's just you just keep up with it. You just
Mhm. Mhm.
so.
And I think this is important information to share because I follow a number of rescues on social media. And what I find is that oftentimes dogs get returned to shelters for reasons that perhaps should have been discovered before they made the adoption. Meaning,
Absolutely.
um, in
Absolutely.
your case, I didn't realize my dogs were working dogs or more protective, or I
Yeah.
didn't realize the dog was going to get so big and things like that. So it's great that you're sharing this information about this combination of breeds because it's
Yep.
certainly something for people to consider when they're adopting this
Absolutely.
particular type of dog.
Yep.
Um, if you don't have the time to work through socialization, or
Yep.
if you don't like dare I say, fur all over the place, these might
Right.
not be the dogs for you.
Might not be the dog for you. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I will say, so Charlie, we know Charlie is at least half pit bull. We did not know that before, but my daughter did the DNA test recently. So I will just, put a shout out there. As pit bull actually refers to several different breeds of dog that have been used for fighting. And most of them, if they've been socialized since they were puppies, are fantastic dogs. The problem is when you get a dog from a shelter, especially one who's no longer a puppy, is a little bit older, and you really don't know what their history is. And I hate to say it, but a lot of these dogs are coming up from southern states. We used to live in southern Louisiana, and so I know there still is pit bull fighting down there, and you end up with a lot of puppies who, because the parents weren't fixed, and it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. But I do think that with dogs that have been um, trained or haven't been trained, and they have these instincts that have been bred into them over generations, I think people really, really need to be aware of when they get a dog that has a lot of pit bull or other fighting dogs. Um,
Mhm.
but that said, like I said, we've had at least one who has a lot of pit bull in him, and he's a sweetheart. He's a great dog. So I really hate the idea of just banishing an entire set of dogs because of their DNA. I'm just saying people need to really be aware of the history and the background of any dog that they
Mhm.
adopt from a
Mhm.
shelter. Get as much information as you can.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, it is unfortunate that there's such a stereotype, particularly with bully breeds.
Yep,
But not that long ago, it was the Rottweilers. And before that, it was something else.
exactly,
And before
exactly.
that, I'm pretty sure it was something else. So there are dogs that we go through these phases
You go through
with
the
different
phases.
breeds.
Correct. But a lot of it is how the dog has been trained, how the dog has been socialized. In my pack that I take Sasha to, we have several pitties. We call them
Mhm.
pitties. We have several pitties in the pack, and they're great. They're fantastic dogs. We've had personal experience though, with a dog who was sweet as pie to us, but started fighting with our other dogs. And that, we just had to, it was horrible. It was horrible. So anyway, that's tough. It's a tough
Yeah. No,
situation.
absolutely. It's unfortunate for the people that open their homes up and
Yep.
then maybe make this discovery afterwards because
Right.
a lot of times these shelters, to be fair to them, they don't know a lot.
Absolutely. No,
They
they
just
don't.
don't.
They don't.
They
And
have
they're,
what they have for information, and then
yep,
you're learning kind of as you go. And
exactly. Exactly.
sometimes it doesn't really always work out that well.
Right.
Um, but I wanted to chat a little bit about your experience with Lighthouse because
Yeah.
I know of them, but I don't know much about them.
Yep.
How did you find the experience in working with them and adopting through them?
Yeah.
Let's
So
talk a little bit about that.
sure. And again, this was 4.5 years ago.
Mhm.
But when I adopted through them, as I said, they had an online application. So you went into the application, talked about your own history with adopting dogs, not just having dogs, but have you adopted dogs before?
Mhm.
What are you looking for? What kind of behaviors do you not want? And so, to be honest, one of the behaviors I did not want was one of my previous dogs who was aggressive. So she would be, if she was afraid of a person coming to our house, she would act very aggressive. We had her until she was 15 years old. She was a black lab mix. We did not bring her back to the shelter. We kept her, we worked with her, we socialized her, but I didn't want to have to go through that again. It's really
Mhm.
hard. So I put that on there. I don't want a dog who exhibits fear-based aggression. So they have things like that. What can you deal with? What can't you deal with? We said we prefer a larger dog. We like the larger breeds. That's just our personal preference. So they
Mhm.
give you those options. And so then when we went, so I think within a few days they emailed me and said they have a new dog who just got to the shelter a few weeks ago and seems to meet a lot of our criteria. Did we want to come and meet her? And
Mhm.
that's when we went and they brought her out into the backyard. And I just, it was like she came right up to us, smiling, wagging her tail, happy,
Yeah.
relaxed, not at all fearful, which is what I didn't want. And she was about a year old at that point. So if she was going to exhibit fear, she might have at that point. But she was
Mhm.
a love, she was very lovely right away. And so then they let us actually take her home before we made the decision. They
Oh,
let us
wow.
they let us take her home to take a walk and to meet Charlie because we had Charlie at our house at that point. We wanted to make sure that the dogs were going to be compatible. Took her for a long walk and came back to the shelter and said, "Okay, we're keeping her." So they were very flexible in that way.
Mhm.
Um, I think it was either them or maybe a previous. She had come up through shelters from Kentucky, and so Lighthouse has a Facebook page, and after you've adopted your dog, you can go on their Facebook page and post, Sasha, whose name formerly, by the way, was Tyra. So you say formerly known as, and
Okay.
her name, and just pictures of how she's doing. And when I did that, people who had been fostering her from Kentucky all the way up the East Coast, we got texts on their Facebook page. I'm so glad Tyra was found a forever home. So yeah.
That's awesome. Does Lighthouse have, dare I say, after adoption resources? So, for example, if you're experiencing some kind of a challenge with a
Mm,
dog that maybe they weren't aware of beforehand,
right.
or is it just, here's
To
a
be
patient,
honest,
good luck?
I can't answer that. I don't know because we didn't take advantage of any such
Mhm.
services. They did chip her. They chipped her. They made sure. I don't know if they spayed her or she had been spayed before she got to them.
Right.
But if it's a puppy, you sign a form saying you will spay this dog or you will
Mhm.
neuter this dog because they don't, unless you're a breeder and I'm going to get some people mad at me, I'm sure. Unless you're a breeder and you know what you're doing, it's better to not let your dog have puppies.
Yeah.
There are so many puppies in need of homes out there that unless you're a breeder, so anyway, most shelters will tell you to please sign this form saying that you will have your dog fixed.
Hmm. Hmm. Do they also have a process where if it doesn't work out, you're required to return the dog back to them?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I
No, no,
don't.
no, that's okay. I was
Yeah.
just curious.
Right.
Um, because some rescues do, others maybe
Yeah.
don't.
Don't.
I'm always curious about how,
How
all
that works.
rescues operate differently. But
Yeah.
I agree with you about, perhaps, spaying and neutering your pets. There's way too many animals,
Right.
that are bred in the South, that are bred in,
Anywhere,
other
really.
parts of the country.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
Um, I mean,
So,
if you are into the AKC show club circuit, maybe it
right.
matters more. Bloodlines matter more and things like that. But if you're just looking for a dog to love, I'm all for it. Just go to a shelter and get a pet.
Right.
We're still euthanizing upwards of 2 million animals a year in the US, which is just, I cannot, it's 2025 and it's something I just can't get my head
Exactly.
around, but
Yep, exactly.
it
No, I
is what it is.
agree.
So obviously you've had quite a bit of experience with pets and dogs and that kind of thing. What is one, if you had a new neighbor move in next to you and they said, Maura, who do you recommend for pet services in this area? Because I don't know of any. Who would you recommend?
When you say pet services, you mean in general, everything, right?
It could be anything. Could be a veterinarian, a groomer, a
Oh, yeah,
dog
yeah,
walker.
all of the above. Um, so we go to Mattapoisett Animal Hospital for our vet, and I think they're fantastic. They have right now, I think they have 3 full-time vets on staff, and they're wonderful. And one of my dogs prior had diabetes. I had to give him insulin shots twice a day, and he was another 90 pounder, but they sat down and taught me how to do it and, walked me through it. And he lived another 8 years after being
Oh, wow.
diagnosed. Yeah. So they were fantastic. So I highly recommend them. We have a dog walker in our neighborhood. I mean, we walk our dog ourselves like 3 times a day, but sometimes it's nice to have somebody if you're doing something else. So we hire him to walk Sasha 3 times a week.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to give the name here,
No, no,
but
no, that's okay.
welcome to contact me and I can give you his name. He's great. He does several of the dogs in our neighborhood. In fact, he'll link them up together. That's how Sasha has made friends with a couple of the other dogs, as she's been walking with them for
Mhm, mhm.
came here. That's the dog walker. Grooming services. Yeah. Actually, I just had her groomed today at a place called the Grooming Den in Mattapoisett, right on Route 6. They did a great job. I highly recommend them. They just started business a few weeks ago, but he had been a groomer with his dad in Wareham for many, many, many years. So he's got a lot of experience. It's just this is a brand new place. And then our dog trainer. I'll give a shout out. She goes by Wicked Smart Dogs. It's in Wareham. Her name is Jenny, and she does pack walks. And as I said before, we do a combination we started off with some one-on-one and small semi-private lessons, and
Mhm.
then you can join as many pack walks as you want. And she's got a Facebook page where she puts a list of the events and when the next ones are. She
Mhm.
also does training for therapy dogs. So some of the dogs, when they get to a point where they're really great with other dogs and they're really good with people, she'll use them as therapy dogs. So I highly recommend her. There.
That's awesome. What a great list because,
Okay.
there are, as you probably have seen over the years, people move out, new people move in, and
Yeah.
they're always looking for recommendations. I mean, anybody can Google anything, but I feel like a word of mouth recommendation is always my go-to if
Yes.
I have the option to
And
do that.
actually, I learned about Jenny and Wicked Smart Dogs from my next door neighbor who has been taking her dog there for the last 4 years. I mean,
Mhm.
she goes at least once a week.
Oh,
Every
wow.
4 years she's been taking her. So yeah, it's a community. It's a real community. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mattapoisett in general is such a small town
Yeah.
that, I mean, people know people for sure, and
Yeah.
good or bad,
Yeah. Exactly. We actually live in Marion, but our neighborhood is like right on the town line. We're like
Oh, okay.
right on the Mattapoisett Marion town line. So yeah.
Yeah. Marion's even smaller. I
I think
mean,
so. Yeah. I know.
Marion is definitely even smaller. So no, it's great. And I think it just goes to show that no matter what community you decide to live in,
Yeah.
there are great resources, right? You don't have to
Absolutely.
travel far for great resources.
I
So.
think I found you on Hometown Fairhaven, right? I'm guessing.
Mhm.
And my daughter lives in Fairhaven, so that's where I got the connection to Fairhaven. So she just bought a house there last year. So
Oh, nice,
yeah,
nice. Yeah, we're a bit of a bigger town than Marion or Mattapoisett,
I
but
love Fairhaven though. I just love Fairhaven. It
yeah,
really is such a special place. Yeah.
yeah, definitely a great coastal town that a lot of
Yeah.
people love, and
Yeah.
yeah, I can't complain. We just moved here about 5 years ago, and
Okay.
we've
Yeah.
we've loved it. We've really enjoyed it here. It's so central to most things. So
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
So
Well, I so appreciate you taking this time to share your experiences and your dogs
sure.
and all of that with me.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's a great project. I look forward to seeing your final video, and let me know if there's more I can help you with in this regard. Been great talking with you.
yeah, no, this has been wonderful. This has been wonderful for sure.